Good afternoon, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Friday, October the 21st, 2016. Good to have you all here for our third and final show of this week on this rainy day here. That's why my hair's kind of got the messy look going on, so I apologize for that. So here we are on this in the Spotlight 411 Football Blitz Football Friday for our usual football show for this week. And you all know the drill we'll do tonight. Today, I should say. We'll be looking back at last week in the NFL and college football, looking ahead to this weekend's action, talking about last night's Thursday night football game, which there ain't really much to talk about there, but we'll, just bring it up, I suppose. So that the way of the land here for the show here today, as usual. So as always, before we get going, let me remind you all the ways which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight401@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight401. You can use the hashtags, hashtag itspotlight401, hashtag itsfootballblitz, or come up with your own hashtag as long as it's not disrespectful or insulting. And if you could, please use hashtag ITS in there to help us out with promoting the show. That's all we'd appreciate. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 401 on Facebook and make sure you like our page upon finding it. All right, so all that being said, we're going to get going. As I always like to do with these football shows, because they're daytime shows. Again, I always mention this, but it bears repeating that, you might be listening to this on your way home or watching this, not necessarily on your way home, because if you're watching it then and you're driving, that's kind of dangerous. But, to those of you that are checking this out, you might be on a break or might have very little time. So we try to get this in as quick as possible. And to those that will be watching or listening later, I want to be understanding of your time as well, the time you're taking out to watch this or listen to this. So again, I try to keep these shows as short as I possibly can, not because I don't like to talk, because I obviously do, and not because I want to sacrifice content, because I just want to be as convenient and efficient as possible. So we will get right down to it. And as usual, on this Friday afternoon, we'll start with the NFL. Actually, one quick thing. To those that are, some of you might be trying to tune in. Usually, okay, wow. I got to pick one idea and stick with it. All right, look. Usually I post social media links. You all know this. I post links on Facebook. I post links on Twitter to the show. Right now, Twitter is down. There's been some hacking things going on today, along with on Twitter and a number of other sites. Twitter is down, so I obviously can't post stuff on social media if I'm not able to do that. So just a little heads up to those of you that are tuning in right now. I see there's some of you that are. Twitter is down, so obviously I'm not able to post on Twitter. I am able to post on Facebook. I am posting a link to the show on Facebook at this moment. So we'll have the link up on Facebook, obviously. So you have that. Usually so if there's anybody that relies heavily on Twitter for connecting with our show, you're pretty much screwed today, unfortunately. It's not my fault. Didn't have no control over it. Again, it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things. Can't do anything about it. And I'm just tried again, and it is still down. So Twitter is down. It's pretty bad. I think it's Twitter, Amazon, Spotify, and a few other sites. What can you do? Just think this kind of stuff happens sometimes. So again, so the reason why I'm bringing this up is for those of you that are wondering why I didn't post a link on Twitter. That's why, because obviously I'm not able to do it, and right now you're hearing an echo, so I apologize for that. Here you go. I had YouTube on in the background. I need to stop doing that. I do that at least once a week now. So, we'll have a link up on Facebook. I'm posting it right now. But Twitter, we will not have any social media links up, so you can't access the show through Twitter today, but you can access it through Facebook. And obviously by now, most people know how this all works and stuff, and they keep an eye on things, so they don't have to really heavily rely on it, but some people do. So unfortunately for them, I'm not able to really help them out today, but so again, I'm just bringing it up because we can't post a link on Twitter to the show. I just posted it on Facebook. I just can't post it on Twitter. So if you are wondering, that's why I didn't post anything on Twitter, because it's down. So All right. So with that being said, now we can get going. I apologize if that might have felt like a waste of time to a number of you, but there are some people that legitimately ask me if I don't post the social media links, they'll be like, "Hey, why didn't you post it? What's going on?" and whatever. I always feel like I need to explain everything. That's the thing. I feel like I have to do that. Otherwise, people are going to ask me. People, even not people, ask about weird stuff sometimes. So you kind of want to do that. So, um, you know, that's just and okay. And I just got an article about this. It's Twitter, Netflix, and a number of other sites. Spotify, New York Times, a number of sites are influenced by it. So this is a pretty big deal. So, but yeah. So again, I didn't post any links on Twitter because obviously, like I said, it's down right now, so I'm not able to post anything up there. But I did post a link on Facebook for those that can access through there. So you'll know. So if you want to use Facebook to access the show, you can do that. But I was not able to do that on Twitter today because of, like I said, there's a hacking going on, situation going on. So just bear that in mind. So, all right, with all that being said, let's get going here. Let's get going here. As we always do, we'll start off with the NFL. And definitely, in my opinion, one of the best weeks of the season so far, if not the best week of the season. Again, we've been pushing the narrative over the last couple of weeks. Quality of play has been an issue. That to me has gotten better. It got better the week before last, and this past weekend, it got incredibly better. I feel like some of these teams are finally gelling together. I feel like now, I mentioned this last week, we got a sense of who the teams to watch are going to be. And I think that everything's starting to settle in here now that we're past week 6, heading into week 7. We're almost halfway through the season. Finally, it looks like things are starting to materialize a little bit. A lot slower than normal, but they are. So you look back at last week, obviously we got started with a big shocker with the Chargers beating the Broncos 21-13, second straight loss for the Broncos, a big, big win for the Chargers, which, look, they're hanging by a thread going into this game. I mean, look, once you get the 4 losses, once you're at 1-4, or 0-4 or whatever, you're basically teetering on the edge of the cliff of being just done completely. Very little chance. Winning this game, though, gives the Chargers somewhat of a chance because of the fact it kind of makes up for some of those games that you feel like they should have won. When you beat a team that really many people didn't expect you to beat, it kind of makes up for one of those losses you might have had that you probably shouldn't have had. So I'll give them credit. It was a big win for them. Their defense was phenomenal. Wasn't the best offensive showing by Rivers, only threw for 178 yards, but they got the job done, and that's all that matters right now. They just need wins. They have to get to 500. And in reality, when you get to a record like 1-4, in reality, you really, truly, truly have to win like 4 or 5 in a row because it's not just enough to get to 500. What good is you get to 500, then you drop another game, and you're 1 game under. The division is not going to stay down to this level for very long. You got the Chiefs there, you got the Raiders there. You need to win games, and you got to kind of get back get in the mix here. So this was a big win for the Chargers. It keeps their very faint hopes alive. This is a tough loss for Denver because what they've allowed. The Raiders were right there anyway, but in a week where the Raiders lost to the Chiefs, what they did was they prevented themselves from getting further out in front of them, and also getting out in front of the Chiefs. Now you got the Chiefs and the Raiders right there with you, and you keep the Chargers alive. So that's a tough loss for the Broncos. You still feel good about them, but they're starting to go into that place. And I know Simeon was hurt and everything. He played. But, maybe that played a role. But you know what? You're starting to look at Denver right now, and they're starting to give you the feeling they gave you. And now last year, obviously, they had injuries, but they're giving you that feeling like they did last year where they kind of went into this midseason swoon a little bit. That's where they're headed right now. And they got to get out of this. It's a big week for them here. They got to get off this streak that they're on here. This because they do not look really good right now these last couple of weeks. The Bills handled their business against the 49ers, looked very good doing it, 45-16 over the 49ers. Kaepernick returned 13 for 29, 187 yards, 1 TD. Kaepernick didn't look that bad. He looked a lot better than any play he did last season. Wasn't great, but he looked a lot better than he did last year. So I think if you're the 49ers, you take that and see what happens. Look, their season's over. They're 1-5, but they can see what they got from Kaepernick, and if it works out, they can try him again next year, I suppose. A huge win for the Redskins over the Eagles, 27-20. The Redskins have gone from being, the Redskins were that team this year going in that everybody thought was going to win this thing. A lot of people did. That's the team that everybody thought, and now they're looking like that team again. Good defense, good offense, efficient, showing that explosiveness. The Eagles are falling apart right now. Their defense was lazy in this game. Just did not do enough. Offensively, I didn't think they were too bad, but defensively, they were a mess. The Eagles have got to look. This is going to be a tough division. The Giants are there. The Eagles are there. The Cowboys are shocking everybody. The Redskins are back in play. This is going to be a good division, and every win is going to count in this division. Every single win is going to count. The Redskins are very much back in control. The running game was key for them in this game. Matt Jones. They gotta Eagles, they gotta get back on this, because any kind of sustained losing streak, and they're on one right now, could take you out of this thing, because you got 3 teams in this division right now to compete with. It's not just that you're battling one team, that you're battling all of them, and it's going to be tough for them. Any sustained losing streak could be the difference. So you don't want to continue to streak any longer than you have to. So a big week for the Eagles as well. Titans handled their business against the Browns 28-26. Goes to show you how bad the Titans are. Don't ignore their 3-3 record, that they couldn't beat the Browns by more than they did. But they got the job done. So they're hanging around at 3-3. Browns continue to struggle. Giants with a huge win over the Ravens, 27-23. A great defensive effort, a great offensive effort against a really good defense. Eli looked fantastic, 32 for 46, 403 yards, 3 TDs. A great game. Odell Beckham Jr. finally showed up. 222 yards, 2 TDs. The Giant offense was the big key here. Their big playmakers made the big plays. Their offense was back. Their defense did just enough. While it wasn't very pretty, everything the offense came together, and that was what was able. That was really what was they were able. That's why they were able to get over some of the ugliness in this game and just pick apart the Ravens. And the fact that they were able to pick apart the Ravens defense the way they did, that's a good thing. That shows you a lot about the Giants. When they're on, they can beat anybody. The Ravens are it's devastating for the Ravens right now. Look, we all know Joe Flacco was injured last year. It's been a rough go for him. The offense just isn't clicking. But the defense was really more the story for the Ravens this week. Offensively, I didn't think they were too bad. I mean, yeah, it's still real rusty, a real wet behind the ears, but you know what? The defense was what was bad for the Ravens this week. And I know they're on the road, but you still expect them to play a better defense than they did. They got ripped apart this week by the Giants. The Giants offense ripped them apart this week. It was a very, very good win for the Giants. A huge win, especially in light of what the Redskins have been able to do recently. So big win for the Giants, and the Ravens have got, again, this is a big win for the Ravens. A big week for the Ravens, I should say. The Saints with a huge win. The Saints have kind of risen from the ashes a little bit these last couple of weeks, getting themselves back to 2-3 with a 41-38 win over the Panthers, who are now done. If you're 1-5, you are done. Because let's be honest here. Even if they win 4 in a row, they only get into 5-5. The Falcons are sitting there at only 2 losses. It's done. The Saints are not done. The Saints are not done. If they can win the next couple games, they're right there. But the Panthers are done. No doubt about it. Between all the stuff with Cam Newton and the fact they're 1-5, their defense has been atrocious, which was always their strongest suit anyway. Offensively, the funny thing is, even without Cam, they're scoring points. They scored 38 points this game. Now the Saints defense, we all know, is terrible, so you don't rate a lot into it. But they are, even when they weren't playing the Saints, they were scoring points. Panthers offensively hasn't been the problem. Their defense, which is the one thing that you always thought you could rely on, has been the problem. But regardless, the Panthers are done. This was like an elimination game in a way. Any chance they had, which was very faint going into this game anyway, is gone. The Panthers are done. The Saints are very much alive, though. Drew Brees with another 465-yard, 4 TD game. Saints are right there. They're very much alive in this season. So quite the turn there. Jaguars, big win over the Bears, 17-16, gritty, gutty, 17 points in the fourth quarter. Wasn't a pretty game, but got the job done. The Bears, another tough loss, another close loss. Offensively, again, it was a struggle. Defensively, the Bears look like the Bears. That's the first time this year I thought the Bears defense looked like a Chicago Bears defense. They did a great job in this game, but offensively was a mess. And that's really that's the story of the Bears the last couple of years. There's games where they it seems like they have a game where the defense is good and the offense is bad and the offense is good and the defense, but they can't keep it together. They can't be consistent. That's the problem with the Bears. But now they're 1-5. They're officially done. And the Jaguars are 2-3, and they're very much in this thing, especially in light of how they played this year. The Jaguars should be over 500, but they're not. They've suffered a couple of tough losses. But the Jaguars are very much right in play. Big win for the Lions over the Rams, 31-28. Rams have dropped to 3-3 again, very much still in play here with their 3-3 record, so you don't really worry about it. Offensively, they looked okay. Defensively, it was a struggle at times, but they figured it wasn't too bad. I don't think the Rams' performance in this game was too bad. Just suffered a close loss. The Lions took what the defense gave them and kind of worked it out and just grinded themselves to a win. That's really all it was about. It was a very consistent, efficient kind of win for the Lions, and now they sit at 3-3. And look. Given how the Vikings are doing, given how the Packers are doing, the Lions need every win they can get in this division. So it's a big win for them. And really, every week in the NFL, there's always a WTF game where somebody either wins that you have no idea, like you look at and go, how the hell did they win? Or they lose and you have to figure out how the hell they lost. Sometimes these things come together. This was that game. Every week in the NFL, there's one of these games. And this was a game. The Dolphins beating the Steelers 30-15. That was a WTF. How was that? The Pittsburgh Steelers are reminding you of what they were a couple years ago, where week to week, 1 week you'd see them and you go, oh my gosh, they're a Super Bowl team, they're the most dominant team in the AFC. Offensively, defensively, they got you on both sides of the ball. And then the next week they lay a collective egg. That's what we've seen this year from the Steelers. They've either looked incredibly dominant or they've looked incredibly bad. You look back at that, there are 2 losses. The loss to the Eagles, now look, the Eagles are a good team, okay? So you kind of can give that one a pass. But they looked awful in that game. They never got started. Now, against the Dolphins, the Dolphins are not terrible. Look, they've lost a lot of games that they should have won this year. We all know that. But they needed overtime to beat the Browns, okay? They're not great. And I know Miami has had a tendency in the past sometimes to upset teams in their building. But here's the thing. They beat the Steelers 30-15. The Steelers defense gave up 30 points to an offensive team in the Dolphins. That's terrible. And while the Dolphins year in and year out are usually a pretty solid defensive team, the fact that the Steelers can only score 15 points on the Dolphins is a travesty. I don't care how – look, the Dolphin defense isn't bad. But come on, 15 points? Come on. They gave up 222 rushing yards on defense. That's terrible. It's a terrible performance. They laid an egg. Terrible performance by the Steelers in a week where the Ravens lost and the Bengals lost. An opportunity to kind of really, in a lot of ways, put this thing away, get themselves some distance here. They lose this game, a game that they shouldn't have lost. Terrible loss for the Steelers, and that's a huge win for the Dolphins. Not that I expect them to do anything with it, but it's a huge win. In one of the games of the weekend, Patriots and Bengals, a good quality game. Bengals did all they could. This wasn't enough. They suffer a 35-17 loss to the Patriots. Brady, a great effort, 29 for 35, 376 yards, 3 TDs. Brady has had no rust on him whatsoever. Just a great performance defensively and offensively by the Patriots. And the Bengals, look, I think we all came into this game knowing they weren't going to win this game. I think we all wanted to see a good effort. I thought you got a good effort. It was, in my mind, mentally, it's the best they've looked in a couple weeks. That's maybe a good sign. Now, but they are 2-4 now. It's gut check time for them. Let's see if they can build on it. I didn't think it was a terrible performance. I thought it was one of their better ones in the last couple of weeks, especially mentally. I thought they looked a lot better this week, to me. But we'll see if they can build off of it. I mean, like I said, going into this week, their body language wasn't good. But in this game, I felt like they really were a little bit more. I felt like they were a little bit more positive. I felt like they had a little bit more confidence. Maybe I mean, they can probably look at this and go, all right, it's the Patriots. Let's just move on. But if they do, that's the right way to look at it. We'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the Bengals because their season's on the line, and also you want to see how they fare mentally. Because again, that was a concern going into this new game with the Patriots. Chiefs with a big win over the Raiders, 26-10. Very solid win. Good offense, great defense. They shut the Raiders down. They scored the ball on a really tough Raider defense. The Raiders haven't been as good at home as they were on the road, which is interesting. And now, look, okay, if you're the Raiders, like, all right, point to you. You came into our building. You did a good job. Spencer Ware ran for 131 yards. Alex Smith was great. What are you going to do? Wasn't a horrible effort by the Raiders. They just got shut down. They just couldn't get anything going. Now you tip your hat. You're 4-2. You're tied with the Broncos. Chiefs are right there at 3-2. It's a tough division. You're still there. You're all right. Raiders have looked good. Now the Chiefs are starting to heat up again. This is what happened with them last year. Slow start, and they pick it up. So you might want to keep an eye out for the Chiefs here as we go along. But big win for them. Big win for them. This game was a great game. Falcons-Seahawks. Seahawks, we all know, are very tough to beat in their building. The Falcons were very much right there. They had the Seahawks on the ropes. 21-point third quarter. They were right there. They had the 24-17 lead, and they went to Seattle. The Seahawks just grind it out in the fourth quarter and get a 26-24 win. The Seahawks are now 4-1, 3-0 at home. Drops the Falcons to 4-2. Other than the fact they just couldn't finish the game out, it was a field. I mean, look, it was a field goal with 1:57 left. I don't look at the Falcons and go, this was a bad performance. It wasn't. It was a great performance. In fact, the Falcons showed me a lot this week that they're very much legitimate this year. Matt Ryan's having a great year. He had another 3 touchdowns in this game. Julio Jones has been absolutely amazing. The Falcons have been more explosive this year. I think they're showing a lot more explosiveness on offense this year. I think it's going to help them. Look, they've been great. They're 4-2. They're in the division. I think they're going to win the division. I think they're one of the teams to watch. They played extremely, extremely well in this game. They should have probably won it. I thought they played better than Seattle. Now, Seattle didn't play bad, but I thought they played better than Seattle overall. I really did. On both sides of the ball, Seattle just was able to grind it out in the fourth quarter and make the big defensive plays when they needed to, and that's really what it came down to. So, great game by both teams. Both these teams are going to be playoff teams in my mind. Great win for the Seahawks, tough loss for the Falcons. But again, I think it's a loss that the Falcons can actually look at and go, you know what? We had this game. We got to feel good about ourselves. I really think they can believe that. Both teams played well in this game. And this game, which was a classic marquee game, and definitely one of the games of the weekend everybody was looking forward to. Although the game of the weekend in my mind was Seahawks-Falcons. But this game, obviously, for marquee value history. But this game also featured the most impressive performance of the weekend. And this game, of course, is the Cowboys and the Packers. The Cowboys are the most impressive team coming out of this week. With their 30-16 win over the Packers in Lambeau Field. First of all, Dak Prescott with the three threw for 247 yards and 3 touchdowns. Ezekiel Elliott was once again great. This was a huge win for the Cowboys. They don't win at Lambeau very often. It's very rare. They came out, they dominated the Packers right out of the gate on both sides of the ball. They shut them down. The Cowboy defense was great. The running game was effective. Prescott looked unfazed. If they start Tony Romo this year, barring an injury to Dak Prescott, they're idiots. This guy has he has been amazing this year. He has been unflappable. He's handled everything with poise. Dak Prescott cannot lose that job. He has been amazing. The Cowboys are 5-1. They won. With the Falcons right now, they look like the best team in the NFC. It's the Atlanta Falcons and the Dallas Cowboys are the best 2 teams in the NFC right now. Easily. And look, the Packers did not look good. It's not that the Packers weren't playing well. The Cowboys just played that good. They shut the Packers down. They shut Aaron Rodgers down. They shut them down. That's what they did. The Cowboys earned this win. It wasn't that the Packers just came in and played like crap. Okay? They ended up playing like crap because of what the Cowboys did to them. A great win. An impressive win for the Dallas Cowboys. And again, a very tough loss for the Packers. And as impressive a win as the Cowboys had was as deflating a loss as the Colts did in Sunday Night Football. Colts had in Sunday Night Football. This was one of the worst collapses I've seen in recent NFL memory. One of the worst collapses I've seen in NFL memory. You know, you're winning 23-9 going into the fourth quarter with 7 minutes left, with Andrew Luck at the quarterback position, and you lose this game. You allowed the Texans, who are an inferior offensive team, and who I like Brock Osweiler, but you know what? He's starting to look very much like a flash in the pan to me. Yeah, he had a great ending to this game, but how much of that was the Colts and their faulty defense? And I don't know. Maybe he's better. I don't know. But to me, he was looking like a flash in the pan going into this game and throughout this game. And they made him look absolutely awesome in the last 7 minutes and overtime of this game. So, you know what? It's kind of hard to see if it was really Osweiler or the Colts. But nonetheless, it was a loss to a game that the Colts needed to win, to a game that they had won. And it's not as simple as they just took their foot off the gas. Because here's the thing. Even when they gave up this lead, even when they went into overtime, they looked absolutely abysmal. The play calling of the Colts is probably the worst in the NFL. I don't understand what they're trying to do in either way, on offense or defense. First of all, defensively, their guys miss tackles worse than any team I've seen in the league. I mean, you got to do some tackling drills or something, because you guys, they're missing tackles. For as good, and you know what the strange part is? The first 3 quarters, their defense looked actually pretty decent, looked pretty good. It was one of their better efforts this year. Sometimes they can do it. But then they fell apart, just like they do all the time. And that's what happens to the Colts. There's times you see them play well defensively, and then there's times they fall apart. But what's really disturbing is the one thing that they're supposed to have, their offense, is abysmal now. Last year, we blamed it on injuries. You can't blame it on injuries this year. You can't. Their offense, their play calling is abysmal. You're better out. The best they looked on offense this year or last year was when Andrew Luck was in the no huddle. You might as well just do no huddle and have Andrew Luck call audibles. Forget about whoever the offensive coordinator is. Just fire him and have Andrew Luck do the play calls, because the freaking play calling is terrible. Some of the play calls that we have seen the Colts this year have are so abysmal. I see Pee-wee teams have better play calling. It's so predictable. They telegraph everything. I mean, what are you doing? You have Andrew Luck at the quarterback position. You have Frank Gore as a back. You have offensive playmakers. Why are you? I don't even. It's like they don't even know what they're doing. It's like they're just throwing out there everything that they can and seeing what sticks. Chuck Pagano is a good coach. He's a very good coach, and I don't think it's all his fault. But I think they got to make some changes to the coaching staff. They really do. I'm not saying it has to be Pagano. I don't think it does. They got to shake something up. Do what the Bills did. They got rid of their coordinator and everything got better. Maybe you need to make a change. I mean, something's not getting through. Offensively, you should be better than this. Offensively, you should be a lot better than this. Where's that team that got to the AFC title game 3 years ago? Where is that team? Where the heck did they go? You had a worse defense that year. You had less playmakers that year. When you got to the AFC title game, you looked better. What is going on with the Colts? Even if your defense is horrible, they should have still been able to put points on the board. The play calling in overtime was horrible. I don't even know if they would have had half the first downs they have. Andrew Luck hadn't run for half of them. Good Lord. You know what? Go to a no huddle. Have Andrew Luck pull a Peyton. Let's have Andrew Luck become Peyton Manning now. Let's have him make the plays that suit him. Let's go audibles. Let's just go audibles, because you can't do any worse than what you're doing. I don't even. To me, that loss is a deflating loss. That destroys your season in a lot of ways. If the Colts rise up from this, then I give them a lot of credit. That's a loss that can kill your season. That's a horrible loss. And I'm sorry, this is a terrible division. This is a terrible division. If you're the Colts and you're less than the Texans and the Titans, you should be embarrassed. Absolutely embarrassed. The only team in this division right now, in my mind, that's played the best is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Because they actually look, they've had a couple of tough losses, but they look good in every game they played. The Colts have been atrocious. The Texans are overrated as hell. And the Titans are just embarrassing. The Titans are a terrible team. Terrible loss. But hey, Texans are 4-2. All power to them. They're 4-0 at home. All power to them. Monday Night Football, not much you can say. Cardinals all over the Jets, 28-3. If the Jets weren't done before, they are now. Palmer was good. Johnson was good. Great. Just not much you can say. A touchdown a quarter is what did it. Just a great effort for the Cardinals, who are now back on track at 3-3. So watch out for them as you go forward here. Vikings and Buccaneers both have byes. So in the aftermath of this, you've set the stage for this weekend where a lot of teams have, in my mind, must have to have big weeks. It's a big week for a number of teams just to kind of stay afloat in my mind. Chargers have to keep winning. Broncos have to win this week to kind of get off this kind of downward spiral they're on. Same with the Eagles. And the Ravens as well. I would put them in that class. Saints have to win. Same position as the Chargers. Got to keep winning to kind of get back on track, get over the hump here. Same with the Jaguars. Bengals, the big week for them. Got to win. Let's see. And the Colts, I think, have to win. It's a must win. Otherwise, I think you dug yourself too much of a hole. Again, with each week that passes by, the levels change. If you're 0-3 or you're 1-3, it's doable to still make it. Once you get to 1-4, 0-4, it's less likely. And then you get to 1-5, or 2-4. It's starting to you're hanging on by a thread. And with each passing week, your chances lessen when you're at that kind of level. And so, ideally, by the time you get to week 10, you should be at least a couple games over 500, or you're done. You really are done. Once in a while you get a gift and you win a division at 8-8, but that's not, that doesn't happen that often. So, some of these teams like the Colts and the Chargers sitting at 2-4, you have to win. You're 3-3. You really do have to win too, because otherwise, again, if let's say you lose this week, then you're 3-4, and you're still alive, but just that you're making it difficult for yourself. And then with each passing week, that you put yourself in a position where you can't lose too many more games. It's only a 16-game schedule. Once you start getting near 5, 6, or 7, once you get above 5 losses, your chances drastically drop. So that's really the measuring stick, because 5 losses means at the bare minimum you go 11-5. That you want to aim to at least have double-digit wins, because that usually means you're going to be a playoff team. So 5 losses, your benchmark. That's your allotted losses if you want to still be relevant to the playoff race. Once you get near 5 losses or get above it, you're pretty much, in my mind, done. And if you're 2-4, you're right near there. Right near there. And for 3-3, you're getting close to that, and you're in a worrisome territory. So some of these teams have big weeks ahead. Ravens, Chargers, Colts, among them. They have big weeks ahead of them. Very big weeks. Same with the Cardinals. I put the Cardinals in there too. 3-3. If you have any chance, you got to keep winning. Keep on. Keep on. So some teams have a big week ahead. Some teams already made statements. We'll see what goes. We set the stage for what should be a big week. Now I feel like the season's gotten going now. I feel like, we're kind of the quality of play is better. Some of these things, these races have materialized. The teams to watch have materialized. We kind of have an idea what we're looking at now. So now it's fun. Now we can kind of iron it out and look at it and really, I think it sets the stage very well for the rest of the season now that we got the clearer picture of everything. We got things on the way for Week 7 last night as we now flip the script to Week 7 with the Packers and the Bears. Just a solid Packer win, which they desperately needed, 26-10 after their Cowboy loss last week. Now the Bears, again, they're not factoring in anything this year, but just a great. But you still have to play the game. You still have to win if you're the Packers, and they did that. So the Packers were a solid win. They now stand at 4-2, so big win for them. Very big win for them to keep pace with the Vikings and company in this division. So now that you got Week 7 underway, we look at what's on tap for Sunday. And we're going to start with another London game, and that's between the Giants and the Rams, both at 3-3. Giants coming off a big win. The Rams going to be the home team. Giants coming off a big win. Rams coming off a tough loss. Look, if the Giants come out offensively the way they played last week against the Ravens, they're going to win this game because the Ravens' defense is far better than the Rams. Rams' defense isn't bad, but the Ravens' defense is far better. Far, 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 far better. So if the Giants play the way they did last week offensively, they win this game because defensively they've been pretty good, pretty solid. They've done all they can really do. But really, to me, the key is this: if the Giants play offensively like they did last week against any team, they stand a chance at winning. And this game against the Rams, they played the way they did last week offensively. They're going to win. I think they will do that. I think they've kind of flipped the switch a little bit. And I think they've kind of come out of their malaise. I expect the Giants to win this week. I'd go with the Giants over the Rams. And I think it'd be a pretty solid win. I don't think it'll be I think the game will be competitive, but I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be a good solid win for the Giants here. 1:00 p.m. game again, that Giant Ram game at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Sunday. So keep that in mind. 1:00 p.m. Eastern on Fox from Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. You have the 3-2 Chiefs, 2-0 at home against the 2-3 Saints, 1-1 on the road. Saints coming off a good couple weeks here. They pretty much finished off the Panthers. They need a win. Again, it's a big week for them. And then there's the Chiefs who are trying to keep pace with the Broncos and the Raiders. They're at 3-2. They've had a good couple weeks. Both these teams come in with some momentum. The key now look, here's the thing. For the Saints, who we know have a terrible defense, the Chiefs are not an offense that's gonna, jump all over you. They're a very grinded out kind of offense. They're an efficient offense. They just take what you give to them. So they're not gonna kind of overwhelm you. So that kind of plays to the Saints defense a little bit. Really what's going to come down to is, can the Chiefs defense swarm the Saints and stop their offensive explosiveness? Because even though the Saints are 2-3, their offense has been clicking all year. Their offense has been fantastic with Drew Brees. Fantastic. So they're going to score points. The thing is, can the Chiefs hold them down enough to keep this close to win? If they do that, the Chiefs will win. If they don't, the Saints can pull out an upset here. Ultimately, I have a lot more faith in the Chiefs than I do the Saints. I think very highly of the Chiefs. I always have. I think very highly of their defense. And I think their defense has the capability to keep this game in the lower 20s. And if they do that, I think they have a chance to win. So that's why I would go with the Chiefs here, especially at home where they're very tough to beat. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs here over the Saints. But this could be an interesting game for sure. 1:00 p.m. Eastern game on CBS from Nashville, Tennessee. 2-4 Colts, 0-3 on the road at the 3-3 Titans, 1-2. But the Colts don't win this game. They are done. This is a must-win for them. It's against a bad team. The 3-3 record is very deceiving. They are not a very good team. The Colts should have no problem winning this game. But then again, it's the Colts, and we've seen how they've been. So I'm picking the Colts to win this game. They're better in every which way than the Titans. Maybe the only thing that the Titans have in them is they play a little bit better defense, because I think they have a few more defensive playmakers than the Colts do. But yeah, the Colts should win this game easily. If they don't, it's an indictment on them. So, and it's a must-win for them for sure. I'd pick the Colts, but again, you never know with them. One of the best games of the weekend, easily this game. 1:00 p.m. Eastern game on Fox from Philadelphia, PA, Lincoln Financial Field. 5-0 Vikings, 2-0 on the road. 3-2 Eagles, 2-0 at home. The last unbeaten team coming off a bye is in play here. Eagles have had a bad couple weeks. What a way to try to get off this bad streak you're on, is to face the only unbeaten team in the NFL. The Vikings have been just flawless defensively. It's been all about their defense this year. Offensively, they just find ways to grind it out. They find ways to win. They find ways to score points. This game should be very close. They're both good teams. Really, what's going to come down to is this. Can the Eagles find a way to score on this vaunted Vikings defense? If they don't, if the Eagles do not get to 20 points, they lose this game. Because the Vikings are the kind of team that likes to keep you under 20. If they keep you under 20, they're going to win. If the Eagles get this 20 or above in the score, in terms of score, they win this game. That's as simple as that. And I think, for what it's worth, I actually think the Eagles are going to win this game. Coming off the 2 losses, I think they're going to be prepared. I think the Vikings have done a very, very good job. They are an elite level team because of their defense. They're very resourceful, but I think they're running into a team that's equally as resourceful, but in different ways, primarily on offense. They find ways to score. They played against some good defenses this year already. I do think they'll find a way to eke this out. It'll be a very close game, but I'm going to pick the Eagles to win this game, and what should be a very close. And I don't think it'll be a very pretty game either, but I think it'll be an entertaining one. So I'm picking the Eagles to pull off the upset and take out the last unbeaten team in the NFL. This game's an easy call. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern game from Cincinnati, Ohio. 0-6 Browns, 0-4 on the road, 2-4 Bengals, 1-1 at home. Battle for Ohio. If you're the Bengals, you can't lose this game. Obviously, the Browns have been in a couple games they probably shouldn't have been this year, but they still lost them. If you're the Bengals, this is your kind of week to kind of come out there and just dominate and kind of maybe build some further momentum, because they didn't look bad against the Patriots last week. They did it. Build on that momentum. You're playing a team that you should beat by 20. Okay. Work on that momentum, work out some kinks, and use this game to kind of make yourself better. I'm picking the Bengals. They should win. If they don't win, then their season's over, in my mind. But they should win, and I think they will. So easily the Bengals should win this game. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern game on Fox from Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. 4-2 Redskins, 2-0 on the road. 3-3 Lions, 2-1 at home. Lions come out 2 straight wins. Offensively, they've been doing their thing. Defensively, we all know it's always a struggle for them. Redskins have coming in with a lot of momentum. They played very well over these last couple weeks after getting off to a tough start, 4 in a row for them. I like the Redskins here. I think they're far more consistent on both sides of the ball than the Lions are. Their defense is very tough, and now their offense is clicking again and back to being explosive. That doesn't bode well for a lot of teams, because they're a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. And they're much more consistent than the Lions are, and they've shown no signs of being afraid on the road. They're 2-0 on the road. Redskins are the better team. Defensively, they're just far and away better than the Lions. I think that's the key. So because of that, I'm going to pick the Redskins over the Lions in this game. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern game, CBS from Jacksonville, Florida. 4-2 Raiders, 3-0 on the road. 2-3 Jaguars, 1-2 at home. This is an interesting game. Raiders coming off a loss, Jaguars coming off a win. The Jaguars need this win more than the Raiders to get back to 500. Raiders looking to keep pace with the Chiefs and the Broncos. I think it's going to be a grinded out kind of game. Both defenses are solid. They're going to keep neither one of these quarterbacks are great quarterbacks. They're serviceable quarterbacks. And given the defenses that you have in play here, this will probably play to more the lower scoring side of things. And it really is anybody's game. I think the Raiders are a smidge better. Both these teams are kind of sweeper teams this year for a lot of people. I think the Raiders are a little better. I like what I've seen from them. I think they have a little bit more of a more dynamic offense going on. I think Carr is a little better than Blake Bortles anyway. So I'll give the edge to the Raiders here. Slight edge to the Raiders in what should be a very close, grinded out kind of game. I would pick the Raiders, but not by much. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern CBS from Miami, Florida. 4-2 Bills, 2-1 on the road. 2-4 Dolphins, 2-1 at home. A chance for the Bills to keep the momentum up. They're playing again a team that they should beat. I think they will beat them, although you got to be careful with them. They just knocked off Pittsburgh in Miami, and we are in Miami this week for this game. But I think that game will probably speak to the Bills. They'll see what they did to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also, the Bills come in with a lot of momentum. I think they'll be smart here. I don't think it'll be a blowout kind of game, but I think it'll be a solid Buffalo Bills win here in this game. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern game, CBS from MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. 3-3 Ravens, 2-1 on the road against the 1-5 Jets, 0-2 at home. Jets have nothing to lose. Their season's pretty much over. Ravens have to win this in my mind, or it's just gonna keep making things harder for themselves because you can't just keep relying on the Steelers to lose to teams that they shouldn't lose to. Flacco is questionable for Sunday. If he doesn't play, I don't like their chances because the Jets are not just gonna play down the rest of their season. They're gonna try to win every game, just out of pride, So we can't take them lightly despite their 1-5. If the Flacco doesn't play, I like the Jets to win. I think he will play, though. I mean, look, the Jets still got a very good defensive team. Offensively, they're not playing particularly well, but if they make this a defensive game, they can find a way to win it. That's for sure, and especially without Flacco. If Flacco plays, I think Baltimore will win here. I think it'll be a close game, but I think they'll win. If Flacco doesn't play, I think it'll still again be a close game. But I think the Jets will win. I think that's as simple as that. Simplest analysis I can provide is that. 4:05 p.m. Eastern game for Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California. 2-3 Buccaneers, 2-1 on the road at the 1-5 49ers, 1-2 at home. Buccaneers coming off a bye. It's a must win for them if they have any chance at making anything out of the season because it gets them back to 3-3. 49ers with Colin Kaepernick starting last week looked a little bit better on offense. Obviously on defense, we know they can still do a lot. They're at home, the 49ers. If Kaepernick plays like he did last week, I think they can win this game. We'll see. I mean, it really depends on Kaepernick. If Kaepernick plays the way he did last week, I think they can beat the Tampa Bay. If he doesn't, if he comes back down to earth a little bit and plays a little bit like he did last year, then I think the Buccaneers will win. So I guess I'm giving the edge to the 49ers because I think Kaepernick will probably play at least comparable to last week. So I'll pick the 49ers here. Although that game's a crapshoot. It's kind of an even kind of. I think even the line is even on it, so it's kind of an even game. 4:05 p.m. Eastern on Fox from Atlanta, Georgia, in the Georgia Dome. We got the 2-4 Chargers, 0-3 on the road, 4-2 Falcons, 1-1 at home. Boy, some of these teams that need wins are playing the long teams this week. I'll tell you that. This is a tough game for the Chargers, especially given how they lose so many close games. I don't like their chances here. The Falcons are playing really well. Even in their loss to Seattle last week, they probably should have won. They played extremely well. Matt Ryan's having his best season. So is Julio Jones. I like the Falcons here to win this, and I don't even think it's going to be close. I think the Falcons win this by at least 10. I think it's going to be a solid win for the Atlanta Falcons, especially at home, even though they played better on the road this year. But I think they'll win this game. 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS from Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, PA. 5-1 Patriots, 2-0 on the road. 4-2 Steelers, 3-0 at home. One of the games of the weekend. Classic marquee kind of game here. These two have a good rivalry. They have a great history. It's the first real test for Tom Brady and the Patriots, as far as I'm concerned. It's going to be a good game. What Steelers team shows up? Is it the Steelers of last week? Because if it is, they don't have a chance. If it's the Steelers that have that in their 4 wins have dominated teams and been explosive on both sides of the football, then I think they'll win. I think if the Steelers play the way they're capable, fully capable, I think the Steelers will win this game. They're in Pittsburgh. They're tough to play at home. And I think they will show up. I think they'll play like they played when they've been dominant. And I think they'll beat the Patriots. I really do. I think Pittsburgh will beat the Patriots this week. I think they'll give you a great effort this week. So I'm going with Pittsburgh over New England. If anything, the Steelers have shown us whenever they have a bad loss, especially this season, and we've seen that this season, but in the past it's even been the case, they usually follow it up with a win. So I think they will. I think it'll be a competitive game, and I think the Steelers will get the win. If it was in New England, I might feel differently. Sunday Night Football, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC from Glendale, Arizona. You have the 4-1 Seahawks, 1-1 on the road at the 3-3 Cardinals, 2-2 at home. Cardinals have gotten back to 500. They're very much back in the NFC West. Seahawks have been riding high and playing very, very well. They're looking like the Seahawks again. But obviously the Seahawks have shown us in the past that they're a much different team on the road. Cardinals have momentum. They're playing better on offense and defense. If Arizona has any chance at winning the division, I think this is a must-win for them. You got to beat Seattle in your building because it's going to be hard to beat them in theirs, even though they did it last year. I like Arizona here. I do. I like the momentum they're playing with. I like the way Palmer's been throwing the ball. They've been getting a lot out of the running game. I think I like Arizona to win here. I think it'll be a very close game. I think this is probably the best Sunday football game we've had this year. I like Arizona here to eke out a win here. It'll be a close one, but I think they'll get it. Monday Night Football, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, ESPN from Denver, Colorado. 4-2 Texans, 0-2 on the road. 4-2 Broncos, 2-1 at home. Broncos should win this game fairly easily. I don't believe in the Texans. I don't believe in what they did last week. I think the Colts kind of helped that along. It is interesting. Brock Osweiler coming back to Denver. That's going to be interesting. So that's an interesting storyline there. But Denver's played last couple weeks have not played well. I expect them to rely heavily on their defense this week to set the tone. And I think you'll see better from Simeon. I think you'll see better from the offense. I think Denver will win this game. I think they'll win it pretty convincingly. So I'm going with Denver here. The Cowboys and the Panthers both have buys. I don't think the Cowboys really wanted to buy given the momentum they've had. Panthers probably do given how poorly they played this year. But those are the teams with buys. So it should be a good week across the NFL. Some really, really good games. And it's a big week for some teams. They want to stay in this thing. So a big week. And by the end of this weekend, as we head into week 8, which sets us at the halfway point, we're going to have, this year we might have a much clearer picture in week 8 of what's going to, of the teams, of the playoff picture than we normally do. If things play out a certain way this week. That's all I will say. We might have a clearer picture than we normally do. Usually you have 4 or 5 teams that kind of hang around and then fall off around week 12. I don't know if we're going to have that this year. I think the picture's been materializing a little quicker this year because of the way some teams played in the early part of the schedule. So we'll see how things come out after this weekend. So that's the story in the NFL. College football. Let's see. I'm trying to pull up everything here. College football, not much of a story. Not much going on. You look back at last weekend, there wasn't a whole lot of big surprises, more or less. Let's see here. I'm just trying to pull up last week's highlights here. Wasn't a whole lot of big happenings last week. Alabama destroyed Tennessee, which I think many people thought they would. 49-10. Ohio State needed overtime over Wisconsin, 30-23. Wisconsin showed you a lot, though. They really did. Unlike Tennessee, who just couldn't compete with Alabama, Wisconsin competed with Ohio State. So I think you have to give a lot of value to Wisconsin. And, if things play a certain way, they could be a potential playoff team still. They're going to need some help to get back in the picture, but they gave you enough in that game to make you think highly of them, I think. Clemson took care of business in overtime over NC State. We thought that could be a game to watch, keep an eye on for upset. It almost was an upset. Clemson pulled out the window, a big win for them. Nebraska with a big win over Indiana. Ole Miss with a devastating loss to Arkansas, which probably took them out of the playoff race in my mind. Even though they've shown a lot this year, it was a tough loss, 34-30 to Arkansas. I at 3 losses now, I just don't see them getting themselves back in the picture. Let's see what else. Miami, North Carolina with a big win over Miami, which gets them back into the picture. Tough loss for Miami. They're still alive, but again, it's very slim. North Carolina kind of put themselves back in the picture a little bit with that win. Not that it matters, but our hometown Syracuse did very well, beating Virginia Tech 31-17. It's probably the biggest win of the season, so I'll give them a shout out for that. Outside of that, it really wasn't anything else big. One thing we got to keep an eye on now is Boise State, because Boise State's unbeaten and they're surging up the rankings. So you got to keep an eye on them going forward here as we approach the first playoff rankings, which will be released, I think, next week. And that's when we're going to really start to get in some college football discussion on the show. Until we do that, it's kind of hard to really talk about it at length because it's you don't know what you're looking at, really. But there really wasn't a whole lot in week 7. Really wasn't. Wasn't the best week. It has been the best couple weeks because after some big early games in the early part of the schedule, it's been kind of quiet. This weekend, you got a couple of interesting games. NC State Louisville at noon on ABC is worth watching, especially after what NC State nearly did to Clemson last week. Wisconsin Iowa, keep an eye on that game. Iowa could do some things. They might be able to pull off an upset here. A&M and Alabama. Again, Alabama gets challenged. We'll see if they can pull out. I don't expect Alabama to lose. We'll see if A&M can even stay in it. That's how we got to kind of grade teams against Alabama lately. If you stay in it, you kind of impress us if you can do that. So that's how bad it is. Alabama's so dominant that if you stay in against Alabama, we think that's a good performance. Let's see what else is on the schedule. Arkansas Auburn's not a bad game. I'd go with Auburn. I'd go with Arkansas in that game. I'm sorry. I'd go with Arkansas in that game, even though they're on the road at Auburn. Ohio State, Penn State has the prestige to it. Ohio State will win, but that's obviously an interesting prestige kind of game. Ole Miss, LSU. Yeah, I guess it matters. You know, it's just a rivalry game. It'll be a good game. But I think LSU will win it, but it doesn't really matter in terms of playoff rankings, which is what we like to focus on. I mentioned the NC State Louisville game. I think Louisville will win, but NC State might give them a game. That's what they did Clemson. I think Wisconsin will find a way to beat Iowa, although I think that'd be a close game. Alabama will beat A&M pretty easily. Yeah, again, it's another week. It's another week in college football. There's not a whole lot going on. You know, hopefully once you get the first playoff rankings, and in November you'll get to some big games as you head towards the end of the regular season, conference, and then of course into conference championship games and such. Once you get into that, it's going to be interesting. Last month of college football, you always have plenty to talk about. You get past the first couple weeks of September now, it gets a little bit bland and boring until things start to pick up again. So I'm not trying to kind of rush through it, just that there isn't a whole lot going on. I mean, what few good games are on the schedule I mentioned, and even made a couple picks for, and that same thing with last week. What few good games there were I mentioned, there's not a whole lot going on. Couple of little stories here from both college football and the NFL that I can bring up before we wind down. There's been a lot of speculation. Now that we've covered all the games, I can bring these things up. There's been a lot of speculation about Notre Dame and Brian Kelly. Obviously, Notre Dame not having it all the year that they expected. It's been said by the Notre Dame AD that Brian Kelly will lead this team out of the tunnel opening day next year. I would expect the same thing. They've had a lot of things going on this year, injuries, and obviously the legal stuff at the beginning of the year. So I wouldn't. I don't think Brian Kelly's going anywhere. Now, next year, if they're healthy and they have their players and it still is a problem, then you put the pressure on them. But I don't think Brian Kelly's going anywhere off this year. An NFL story for you all. Josh Brown has been added to this is breaking news actually before we got on the air today. Josh Brown has been added to the commissioner exempt list. It's likely he has played his last game for the New York Giants. He's a kicker. We all know who he if you don't know who he is. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about this story. It's expected that Brown might not be able to even kick in the NFL again after documents surfaced this week in which the veteran kicker admitted to domestic abuse against his wife. The league wants to investigate further. Upon learning that the new documents was released by the King County, Washington Sheriff's Department. I apologize for that. I got the press conference on in the background. Sorry about that. Brown had a 2015 arrest, and now there's further documents. So basically, he's on the exempt list because they want to investigate. The league wants to investigate further. It's very likely he will not be back with the Giants, and there's this expectation too that he won't be kicking the NFL anymore. So a little bit of breaking news. A little bit of breaking news here. So that's an interesting story as you go forward here. So a couple of little stories here to bring up at the end of the show here. Next week, though, we will be bringing back our mailbag segment for our football shows. That wasn't. I know some people might have thought that might have been it. I just brought up a couple of random things at the end of the show. We'll be bringing back our mailbag segment where we address questions and comments related to the NFL and college football from fans at the end of the show. I usually pick out maybe 3 or 4 and just kind of talk about my thoughts on them and all that stuff. So We'll bring that back next week. I promise you all, late October we do that, and that's what we're going to do. And obviously, we'll be having the college football playoff rankings, which will help add to our college football discussion. You'll be getting a little bit more college football discussion pretty soon as well. Again, we can only talk about so much when there's not that many big games. I only like to focus on the games that are relevant to playoff rankings. I don't like to focus on anything else because it's not worth talking about to me. But once we get the playoff rankings and such, we'll be able to talk more about it. And then the game, and there'll be better games on the schedule over the last month of the season too. So that'll help with it too. We can focus on those games and have far more to talk about. So bear all that in mind here going forward. You'll have a lot more college football coverage, and of course, we'll be doing the mailbag segment over the next couple of weeks as well. So you'll be getting a little bit of a longer show, but you'll be getting a little bit more content, and that's usually what happens as we go along. That's usually what happens as we go along, the further we get into the season and such. So, all right, so we covered everything that we have to cover. So it's time to start winding down. As always, the show might be over. It does not mean you have to stop interacting and contributing to our show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your feedback, your questions about the show and the scheduling of the show, topic ideas, breaking news items from sports, entertainment, wrestling you want us to cover. Opinions, reactions, or comments on things we said on the show and things we talked about on the show. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtags, hashtag itspotlight411, hashtag, if you're talking about the football blitz, you can use hashtag ITS football blitz. Or again, if you don't want to use either one of those and you want to be creative, you can come up with something else as long as you start with hashtag ITS because it helps promote the show. And as long as you're not disrespectful or insulting, that's all we ask. There's enough of that in the world. No need to contribute to it. We also encourage you to follow us on Facebook. To search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook. Make sure you like our page upon finding it. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter so you can get the latest information about our show. Obviously, we have a lot of schedule changes, postponements, delays a lot of the time, especially with the football shows on Friday. Oftentimes they start late. So it's really beneficial to follow us on social media so you get the latest information about our show. And obviously we post opinions on there as well. So make sure that you do that. Follow us on social media so you can get the latest information about our show and other things as well. Might be relevant to our show. So make sure you do that. If you'd like to keep up with our show and catch up on episodes, you have a number of ways to do that. The first way is if you like seeing us on screen, maybe you like streaming better than audio or listening. Then and maybe you're only interested in our Google Plus and YouTube episodes. If any of that applies to you, and you want to look us up on Google Plus and YouTube, just search for In the Spotlight 411. And once you do that, you'll have access to every episode we've ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube, which is everything from mid-October of last year all the way up until today. So a year's worth of episodes available anytime you want. If you missed an episode, missed a part of an episode, or maybe just want to check out an episode again, if any of that applies to you, if any of this applies to you, then you might want to look us up on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. If you're more of a fan of audio podcasting, maybe you like listening to us rather than seeing us on screen. Maybe you want to listen to us on the go. It's more convenient for you. If any of that applies to you, or maybe you're interested in this older episodes of our show, if any of that applies to you, then you might want to look us up on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search In the Spotlight 401 on both sites. And you will have access to every episode that we've ever done over the 6 years we've been on the air. So everything from our original run on Blog Talk Radio from October 2010 to January 2011, everything from our talk show run from January 2011 all the way until mid-October of last year, and then everything from our Google Plus and YouTube run from mid-October of last year all the way up until today's episode. Every episode from Google Plus and YouTube is transferred into audio format for your convenience. So every episode we've ever done over the years is available. Maybe you're a longtime fan that wants to check out even older episodes of our show, maybe from like 5 years ago. Or maybe you're a new fan that wants to check out those episodes for the first time. Or maybe just keeping up with an episode, maybe you missed an episode, missed part of an episode, whatever the case. You can do all that on Podbean and iTunes. Again, just search for In the Spotlight 411. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, and iTunes. 4 ways in which you can keep up with our show and look back at episodes anytime you wish. Just make sure you search for In the Spotlight 401 on all those sites. I want to thank myself for a great show, pat myself on the back, and thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that will be watching or listening to this later, thank you to you as well. Sorry I kind of stumbled over myself at times today again. Sometimes it happens. And hopefully once we have Jeff Tech back on the show. And by the way, for those that do not know, maybe you don't listen to or watch our primetime shows. Many of you might not know who he is, but Jeff Tech will be returning to the show. He's our old technical producer from our days on Talk Show. He'll be returning to the show, so that'll be good. I don't know when yet, but he'll be returning. Once he comes back, that's less stuff for me to do, and I won't be as rattled as I've been getting lately because I got so much to do. I got to remember everything. I don't get cues anymore. It's kind of makes it a little more difficult. So thank you for bearing with me. I appreciate it. And again, that's it for this week. That's all we have on tap for this week. Next week, we'll be back with 2 shows. Again, we will not have a show Tuesday night. We'll be preempted. Our next show will be our Thursday night primetime show next Thursday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live on Google Plus and YouTube. That will be a very full show. We're going to have some sports with the baseball playoffs and any other sports stuff we have to cover outside of football. We'll have some entertainment with the box office beat and TV highlights. And then the rest of the show we'll devote to previewing some wrestling, previewing WWE's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view event, which will be taking place a week from Sunday. We'll preview that. And go over all the matches, make predictions, do questions and comments from the fans, all that kind of stuff on Thursday. And, of course, a week from today, we'll have our next edition of the In the Spotlight Football Blitz. Right now, I would say 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, but, again, that usually means that it's going to be 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern because I'm always late. But so only 2 shows next week. So, again, keep in mind, no show Tuesday night. We are preempted. So our next show will be next Thursday, next Thursday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live on Google Plus and YouTube. That's Thursday, October 27th. That's our next show. So please keep that in mind. So until then, I hope you have a great weekend, great rest of your day, a great start to your week next week. We'll see you back here next Thursday for our Thursday night primetime show next Thursday, the October the 27th, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live here on Google Plus and YouTube. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody. See you next week.